G'day, you're watching Miss Hobbs Teaches Biology, and today we're going to be learning all about the circulatory system, part 2. Welcome back to another episode of Miss Hobbs Teaches. My name's Miss Hobbs. I am a Victorian science, business, agriculture and STEM teacher, and all of my videos are Victorian curriculum aligned. Thanks for joining me today on our second part of our circulatory system journey. Make sure you have watched the first circulatory system video before you're watching this one. If not, head back over there right now. Okay, great. Now that we have done our first circulatory system video, let's get into the nitty gritty. So we are going to be talking about the heart, blood vessels, and blood in depth in today's episode. So the heart is approximately the size of your fist, and it's located to the left center of your chest. So it should be around there. Now, your heart, it's not this classic shape here, okay? There's a picture up here. It actually consists of what we call 4 chambers, okay? All of these chambers have blood vessels attached, and we call some of these vessels, okay, remembering the vessels as they are entering the heart, their veins, and as they're leaving their arteries. So you can think of arteries going away. Now, the top 2 chambers, okay, are the arteria, okay? They're called the right and the left atrium. And our bottom are ventricles, so our right and our left ventricle. So that is what we call our 4 chambers of the heart. Now, our atria on the top, so that left and right atrium, okay, they have really thin walls, but our ventricles, so our bottom 2 chambers, these have really thick muscular walls. So that's what I want you to know. We have 4 chambers, okay? The top 2 are atria, the bottom 2 are ventricles, okay? The top 2 have thin walls and the bottom 2 have really thick muscular walls. Now, just how I said that we've got our left and our right, okay? So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4. Our left atrium, our right atrium, okay? These 2 are separated by what we call the atrial septum, okay? So the atrial septum separates our left from our right atrium. And as you can probably guess, we separate our left and our right ventrium from the ventricular septum, okay? So we've got our atrial septum at the top and our ventricular septum down below. So we've got our 4 chambers of the heart. There are 2 atria at the top, the 2 ventricle at the bottom. The 2 atria are separated by the atrial septum, and the 2 ventricle are separated by the ventricle septum. So the atria is the receiving channel, okay? So when blood enters into our heart, it's gonna enter into these atria, and from these atria, it's then going to enter into the ventricle, okay? Depending on which side it's come in from. Now, the atria and the ventricle are separated by a valve, okay? Now, the valve is what pushes the blood through, and the valve is actually what makes a sound, okay? The opening and closing of your heart valves. So we know the heart is made up of cardiac muscle. If you're not familiar with the types of muscle, make sure you've already watched the muscle video before you are here. The heart beats, okay, it's cardiac muscle and it beats without being told to, because we know cardiac muscle is involuntarily, okay? This is because we've got this natural pacemaker and its natural rhythm. Now, this natural pacemaker is called the sinoatrial node, which is located in the right atrium. So that's what keeps our heart in time. It's your sinoatrial node. Now, this sinoatrial node, it sends these electrical signals throughout the heart muscle, which keep it in time and keep it beating as it should be. Okay, so when blood comes to the heart and it doesn't have any oxygen in it, the heart knows that it needs to become oxygenated, okay? So to get oxygen. If it needs that, it's gonna pump it, okay, to your lungs, because your lungs are what allows you to breathe, okay? So your heart's gonna send deoxygenated blood to the lungs so that it can become oxygenated. The oxygenated blood, okay, that's come from the lungs, then goes back to your heart so it can go and be transported around the body. So it's doing these two things at the same time. It's sending blood that doesn't have oxygen to the lungs, and then it's sending the blood that does have the oxygen around to your body. And it can do this because it's separated into these two sides, because of the presence of these 4 chambers. Okay, so you've got your deoxygenated blood, okay? So it doesn't have any oxygen, and your heart's going, right, I want to send this to the lungs so it can become oxygenated. So what happens is this deoxygenated blood, it enters the right atrium, okay? Through the superior and inferior vena cava. So our deoxygenated blood, it's entered through the superior and inferior vena cava into our right atrium, okay? It's then gonna go through that valve, okay, into the right ventricle. Now, the right ventricle is then gonna contract, okay, and it's gonna send our blood to the pulmonary artery. The pulmonary artery is gonna send it to the lungs, and it's then gonna become oxygenated. Okay, so that's what's happening on our right side. Our right side, it's deoxygenated, it's come in through the right atrium, gone to the right ventricle, and now it's been sent off through the pulmonary artery to go to the lungs and come back again. Now it's gone through the lungs and it goes through what we call the pulmonary vein, okay? As it goes through the pulmonary vein, it drains into the left atrium. Okay, so we're now on the left side. As the left atrium contracts, the blood goes into the left ventricle, and the left ventricle then ejects the blood, okay, into the aorta. Now the aorta is going to split into the smaller arteries, which are going to push the blood away to the rest of the body. Then, okay, after your blood's gone around the body, done the stuff it needs to do, dropped off the oxygen and nutrients, it's gonna come back through the veins, yeah? So it's gonna come in through the veins onto the right side, into the right atrium, then through to the right ventricle, and then it's gonna go out through the pulmonary artery into the lungs, gets its oxygen, beautiful, 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 comes back, okay, into the left side, through the pulmonary vein, into the left atrium, then into the left ventricle, out the aorta, carried away in the arteries. Okay, great. So now we're going to talk a little bit about our blood vessels. So we know our arteries, they take blood away from the heart. So A for arteries, A for away. Now these arteries, okay, nice and thick, and it branches off into these thin little capillaries. Now, these capillaries is where we can have blood exchange, okay, and we can pick up and drop off nutrients. So the capillaries are a little bit like alleyways, all right, and they branch into every single cell in the body. Capillaries allow you to pick up oxygen and other nutrients and drop off carbon dioxide and waste. So remember how we were talking about why some of the functions of the circulatory system and, getting rid of waste? That's where this happens. It happens in our capillaries. Now, after the blood leaves these capillaries, it actually goes off and forms these veins. And the veins is what allows our blood to then return to the heart. So that's that whole cycle. So it comes out in the arteries, going away, and then it goes off into these smaller capillaries, so we allow for the side of waste disposal and oxygen exchange, and then it comes back to the heart through the veins, okay? And then it's deoxygenated, so it's going to enter the right side, yeah? The right atrium to the right ventricle to the lungs, back through to the left side, and back out of our arteries. So it's really just one big system. Fabulous. Okay, let's wrap this up with blood. Okay, this is the last part of it. We have absolutely smashed the circulatory system. So the blood is how we are going to carry nutrients, waste, oxygen, carbon dioxide. Blood is how all of this stuff is transported around the body. Now, remember how I talked about the blood being made up of 2 parts, but said I'd talk more? Well, the two parts are, remembering, our plasma and then our blood cell. Plasma makes about 55% of our blood. And then we know 45% of it is made up of red blood cells. But we have another type of blood cell, which I haven't told you about. And they're called white blood cells. Now these make up less than 1%, but they are super duper important. So of that 45% of our blood, okay, which consists of cells, it consists of three types of cells. Red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. Red blood cells are shaped a bit like a donut. They don't have any nucleus, okay? And these carry oxygen, okay? That's why they don't have a nucleus, so they can carry lots and lots of oxygen. So red blood cells, they're there carrying oxygen. Now to carry all this oxygen, they have this thing in them called hemoglobin, okay? And hemoglobin is actually what makes them red. And it's what allows them to carry all of this oxygen around your body. And how it does this is, you know, when we said the blood goes through the heart, okay, after leaving the right side, well, the hemoglobin in the red blood cells binds to the oxygen and it becomes oxyhemoglobin, okay? So now it's got oxygen in it. Now, most of the blood is these red blood cells. We also have white blood cells. And I said they're really important because they make up, okay, our immune system. And they work together to fight diseases by killing harmful bacteria, okay? So very, very important role they have there. And we're going to talk about the immune system a bit more, but a bit later on. And finally, the third type of blood cell that I said we have, platelets, okay? Platelets are what help to clot our blood. So you know when you fall over and you're bleeding, yeah, it's those platelets that are gonna clot the blood there to stop and to plug that hole. Okay, fabulous. Let's just recap that. So we began our journey talking about the heart and that our heart has 4 chambers. And at the top on the left and the right side, we've got our atrium, and at the bottom on the left and the right side, we have our ventricle. Our blood, okay, goes through our right side when it's deoxygenated. It goes down to the lungs. It gains its oxygen because the red blood cells in the blood have got hemoglobin. When it goes through the lungs, it becomes oxyhemoglobin within those red blood cells that don't have a nucleus. If you need a recap of nucleus, you know where to find it. It then comes back through our left side, okay, and then it's going to leave via the aorta, and the arteries go away, okay, arteries, aorta away, okay, they're going to go out to the rest of the body. It's first of all going to go through the capillaries, and the capillaries are the site of gas, oxygen, and waste exchange, and it's then going to go through the veins to come back through the right side of the heart, and that is the circulatory system. Thanks for watching this episode of Miss Hobbs Teaches Biology. I hope this helped you understand the circulatory system. If you found this video interesting, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Feel free to comment if you need a concept clarifying more down below. Make sure to hit that subscribe button so you get notified when I release my next video. Thanks for watching.